This is lesson 5 for Beatrice. In the previous lesson, I played Stan Getz solo from Bossa Ballads, The Lost Sessions. In today's lesson, I'm going to analyse the solo that Stan Getz plays. In the last lesson, I played the solo slowly and then slightly faster. It would help to have the sheet in front of you so you can see the solo. Obviously, I'm going to talk in concert, but it'll make it a lot easier to understand. So the first phrase starts before the first bar of the sequence, so that's at the end where it goes. So that we're on the G flat, and this starts on the and of 3. And that pretty well fits the chord. And then we've got F major 7. Now listen to what he plays. If you play it raw with the chord and the notes, it's quite odd sounding. But the faster you play it and the more subtle it is, so all those clashes kind of disappear when you play it at the speed. And this very first phrase is actually was what gave me the idea that they're using B flat harmonic minor, because there are elements of that. Also, you could describe the first 2 notes. I put notes from the altered dominant. So if you think of the first chord, instead of F major, we've got a little bit of C7 there. That also might explain it. Anyway, it sounds a little bit exotic. And we go into the next bar. Lovely phrase there, lovely, beautiful shape. Really singable, as I say to people. Beautiful, really relaxed, nice little descending pattern. And then we've got some chord tones here. So nothing really that unusual, just a very relaxed rhythm with lots of phrases that move in a downwards fashion. And then we've got this bebop lick here over the D minor chord. That's a lovely phrase as well. So it goes from high to low and sweeps back up. So that gives it a nice shape. Sorry. And the music's turning on itself here. And this is an example where I'm pretty sure, in fact I would say I know, that instead of going D to C minor, it's this D minor with the descending bass, because the tune at that point is, and if it was C minor, you'd have an E flat in the chord, and E natural would sound very odd. And as it stands with that D minor chord, just for the whole bar, it is really quite beautiful. So I'm pretty sure that's what was intended. This is the run that I found quite tricky. And that's just really an F major 7, just starting on the 7th. And then we've got this. Now some interesting things here. It should have gone. Stan Getz has changed that chord from D minor to D major 7. So that is a real change, and I do not suggest doing that unless you discuss it with whoever's providing the harmony, especially the piano or the guitarist if you've got one, because that would sound pretty weird if you had the chord of D minor and you hit that. There are other things going on here. Lovely rhythm. So lots of triplet ideas. I'll just do that again. And then he's got a little bit of it's just a semi-quaver, but he does something on the saxophone. If you play the saxophone, you probably recognise it. I don't know if it's a quirky fingering or the way you blow it, but anyway, I translated it onto the piano like this. So those notes are an anticipation of the G flat, because they obviously don't fit G minor. And you often find that phrases can anticipate the next chord. And you've got a descending pattern here. So you've got, if you carried it on, what? That was the idea of that. But he does know when to stop, because obviously if you go on too long, it just sounds like an exercise. Okay. And the end of phrase, I put here good end of phrase. So endings of phrases, really, really important. And I think this solo, it shows you how every time he ends his phrase, it's a work of art. It's beautiful. For example, that ending. That beautiful bebop lick in the middle. If he hadn't have done that, if he'd have gone, it wouldn't have had the same effect. So I would suggest learning that solo, do it slowly, and then build up your speed, and maybe try and work out the next chorus on your own. What would I say about the solo? What would I say about Stan Getz? Beautiful tone, very lyrical approach to playing, a laid-back swing feel. There is some variety. He sometimes plays swung quavers and sometimes plays straight, and that was in the bebop lick you just heard there. Those are straight quavers. If they were swung, they'd sound like this. So varying your rhythms, which he does a lot. He wouldn't say it was a particularly rhythmic solo, but actually when you analyse it, there's such a variety and wealth of ideas there. So join me for the next lesson where I will attempt to play Joe Henderson's solo from State of the Tenor, and then I'll be analysing that. And that's the analysis of Stan Getz' solo. In my next lesson, I'll be playing the solo performed by Joe Henderson from his album State of the Tenor.